Hello and welcome to Next 2.0 on WQLN PBS NPR. Next is produced by Black Cess Media, the new parent company of The Public Voice. The interns working hard behind the scenes to make this episode possible are Aaron Cronin and Alani Simmons. I am your host, Marcus Atkinson. If you want to know more about Next 2.0, you can go to Facebook and like the page. You can follow us on Instagram at Next 2.0 Erie. There you can keep up with upcoming show promos, events, and clips about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Thank you so much for tuning in. Speaking of our democracy, happy 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July. And today I want to focus on the dissent from both of our Supreme Court justices, Judge Sonia Sotomayor and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. And of course, they had a ruling that came out not too long ago about birthright citizenship. And to say that both of these dissents was scathing and heated is a huge understatement. I think that we're going into a season right now where the Supreme Court is starting to become more overtly adversarial than maybe it's ever been. And some of these dissents in the past, oftentimes they've been met with kind of a tongue-in-cheek tone. Sometimes they were a little firm. Very seldom, if ever, did it have the edge that these dissents have on this particular ruling on birthright citizenship that was decided on Friday. Judge Sotomayor was clear about what just happened. She said that Trump's administration had set a trap for the court and that the conservative judges walked right into it. And so in January, President Trump signed an executive order, and this was the undoing of birthright citizenship, a right that's guaranteed in the 14th Amendment. And you got a lot of plaintiffs, including from 22 states, that filed suit, and 3 separate lower court judges found that the order was blatantly unconstitutional. And in each of them issued nationwide injunctions that prevented the executive order from taking effect anywhere across the country. And so the Trump administration appealed to the Supreme Court, and at the oral arguments, which happened in May, it presented their case as a chance to consider whether nationwide injunctions themselves are unconstitutional. But that framing paved the way for a high court to allow Trump to violate the 14th Amendment in half these U.S. states without, so it seems on paper, as if it were making a decision about the amendment at all. It also allowed the conservative supermajority to take away one of the judiciary's main tools for upholding the law. And so on that day, which was Friday, the Supreme Court's conservative judges gave Trump what he wanted. They decided that the 3 nationwide injunctions applied only to plaintiffs affecting limiting birthright citizenship to those 22 states and the District of Columbia, 2 migrants' rights groups, and 4 pregnant women. And so not everybody was happy about this. Justice Sotomayor fired several shots coming straight out of this whole debacle. But I want to start first with Judge Jackson. I had to reach and grab this document off the printer. Judge Jackson claimed that the lower courts didn't have limits on their authority to issue universal injunctions, writing that the executive branch should always comply with said injunctions. Now, Judge Amy Coney Barrett took issue with that, and they went back and forth, and I'll give you just some of the highlights or lowlights, however you want to view it, to that discussion. Judge Barrett shot back and said, "We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself," Barrett wrote in the 6-3 majority opinion. "We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary." She goes on to say that no one disputes that the executive has a duty to follow the law, but the judiciary does not have unbridled authority to enforce this obligation. In fact, she says, sometimes the law prohibits the judiciary from doing so, end quote. These ladies went back and forth. This, if I may point this out, was the fear as President Trump started stacking the judiciary with these hyper-conservative appointments. I know once upon a time we thought, wow, this is the bipartisan arm of the balance of powers, the checks and balances system. The judiciary, when it's all said and done, will come in on their trusty steed and they shall save America whenever anyone is tempted to do too much when it comes to the Constitution. And thus far, ladies and gentlemen, that is turning out to not always be the case. As a matter of fact, as we celebrate July 4th, the rhetorical question that is on the minds of many is, hell, how many of these do we have left in our natural form as a democracy, a democratic republic? And for some, and I think that number is fairly large, are we watching America decline? I said this before, and I know my man Chuck is listening. He's not co-hosting with me today. But we talked about this on the show months ago. It's been a reoccurring theme, and I know that either on the show or outside the show, I was being framed as an alarmist, and those who felt like that. And as we look at how America is playing out before our eyes, it's one thing to see a president who is fast and loose with the Constitution. It's another thing to see the highest court in the land not rein him in when he is doing so. And so I took excerpts of Justice Sotomayor's scathing dissent, and I put it into an AI program so I can have it read for you, and we can analyze each of these key statements because it was rather lengthy. But she went in, and rightfully so. If you feel like we're watching and not just watching, but contributing to the demise of the American Republic as we know it, I would imagine that someone would hit the alarm button in a situation like that. Let me play for you a reading, an AI reading, to be clear, of the first clip from Justice Sotomayor.
Few constitutional questions can be answered by resort to the text of the Constitution alone, but this is one. The 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship. To allow the government to enforce the birthright citizenship executive order against even one newborn child is an assault on our constitutional order and antithetical to equity and public interest.
I heard that. As a matter of fact, allow me to read Section 1 of said 14th Amendment. And it reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. I think that's pretty cut and dry. And this is what Justice Sotomayor is saying in this first soundbite. This, of all constitutional amendments, this is one that is cut and dry. What are we doing? And so she starts with that. It actually is, and this is Constitution 101, and this is the highest court of the land. Are we really stumbling on this? It's problematic. But she goes on because she is obviously feeling the outrage of there is some favoritism going on here. And you're allowing this adult man baby to come in, kick and scream, and say this is harming me and my agenda. And she challenges that. Let's go to the next clip.
This court endorses the radical proposition that the president is harmed irreparably whenever he cannot do something he wants to do, even if what he wants to do is break the law. Suppose an executive order barred women from receiving unemployment benefits or black citizens from voting. Is the government irreparably harmed and entitled to emergency relief by a district court order universally enjoining such policies? The majority, apparently, would say yes.
And so in essence, she is saying, come on. And so you mean to tell me this is irreparable harm because this self-centered, selfish president who was only focused on his own agenda, who all he knows is that he wants what he wants, despite what it does to our country, despite what we have declared amongst ourselves as a country, despite what the Constitution says. Irreparable harm is the fact that he was told no. This is like a child asking for something they know they have no business asking for. And we've all watched that parent capitulate and give in just because they don't have the chutzpah to stand up to their own child. And it weakens, it turns your stomach, such an act of weakness. And this is what she's saying to the courts, like, you're just going to give this spoiled brat his way because He's kicking and screaming. And so if he discriminates in such a way against, let's just say, women and African Americans, and she gives her example, and the lower courts tell him you are obviously wrong according to the Constitution, are you then going to grant him the privilege of saying that I'm irreparably harmed by this decision? And they want to enforce this all over the country. They want to reverberate that decision to make sure that everybody understands that what he's asking us to do is obviously wrong. And we want to make sure that the rest of you understand that and adhere to it. You mean to tell me that that is irreparable harm to him, and you don't want to give the courts the right to be able to do that? Are you listening to yourselves? In what court would anybody ever support this? Oh, she goes on to say, apparently this one. She's going in, and I get why she's going in. And so we're going to cruise toward the finish line because this is the 4th of July weekend. It's a holiday weekend. There's no guest today. Everybody's gone. But I feel like what she is saying needs to be analyzed during this 4th of July weekend. Because I don't care how you voted, you really have to start asking yourself what it is that we are allowing to take place here in America and what is going to come out the other end of this. I'm going to play her last clip, which really brings that home. Take a listen.
The court's decision is nothing less than an open invitation for the government to bypass the Constitution. No right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. Today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize firearms from law-abiding citizens or prevent people of certain faiths from gathering to worship.
This is the proverbial slippery slope she's referring to. This is a gateway, a conduit to something. And whatever that something is, I think a lot of us are convinced that it is not a reflection of American values. She's pointed out plain and simple. You are opening a door to something that you will live to regret. You're opening the door to something that is not going to be healthy for our nation, our children, our grandchildren, and so on. You are making an existential mistake, and you need to rethink your actions. Now, Trump won that battle, and so many people out here are praying that he doesn't win the war, because if he does, we need to question whether 4th of July will be a military parade like we see in North Korea, China, or will it be a celebration of the Constitution and the American values that has made this country what it's been for 200 plus years? Marcus Atkinson. That's it for today. You can tune in next time and you'll get more discussion, more analysis, local and national guests, local and national issues. Next 2.0 streams on Fridays on all major podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcast. And it also airs on the 4th Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. on WQLN PBS NPR, which is 91.3 FM. If you want to leave a message, comment, or suggestion, you can call the next hotline, and that is at 814-240-8816. I hope to hear from you. I'm Marcus Atkinson. Come and join us again so that you can hear about what's next for our communities and especially what's next for our democracy. Peace.